Hi guys, let's go through a few updates, interesting updates today. So there's something about the eruption and the land rise, the amount of magma that is coming out of there and what might happen in the future. But there's also some news about Grindavik, especially the businesses of Grindavik, what might be their future and what's going on with the buyout program. We know that they are buying out the homes of the residents, and then it was a discussion, will they buy out the businesses too? Well, we have an answer, so stay tuned. And of course, there's news of what they could do with tourists. They have a new idea where they could money with tourists. And how is it? Of course, bring tourists into danger areas. And I'll tell you which areas also in this video, guys. So stay tuned. And it's not the Blue Lagoons this time. It's not the Lagoonies. Let's start with what the Icelandic Meteorological Office has released today as an update. So the land rise is still happening at the Swartsengi area. That's where the tourist attraction is, the Blue Lagoon, and the important Swartsengi power plant. So the land underneath that area is still rising, but it seems that it has slowed down. And why is that important? There's a magma chamber underneath that is fueled from a deeper magma reservoir, and from that shallower magma chamber, the magma flows out into the eruption that is still going, but there's no data available as well. We'll get to it. So the unique thing that we have here that they never had before in Iceland and anywhere in the world that makes it so mysterious what's going to happen next is that while we have magma flowing out, we have an eruption ongoing, the magma chamber started filling up again. So the flow for a while was balanced. So everything that came out of the deeper reservoir was flowing right into the eruption site. And the eruption does not show a sign of slowing down or of dying out. But now the magma chamber seems to have reached the point of maximum elasticity again. So it will send new magma on its way. So most likely into the current eruption, because the highway's paved already to that one crater there. Maybe along the crater, maybe a new fissure will open, can open up to a length of 3 kilometers or more. But it's likely that it's going to be in that area, but it could be, oopsie, surprise, somewhere else inside Grindavik, outside Grindavik, more north, more south, or even west, but that's the most unlikely version. We know the pressure has built up in that magma chamber, and we know that magma chamber is sending magma on its way when it has accumulated between 8 and 13 million cubic meters of magma. So we have over 10 million cubic meters of magma in that magma chamber right now. So the land rise seems to slow down. That's not a good thing, because if it slows down, it means it cannot expand anymore, right? So no more magma fits in there. That could lift up the land even further. So that means we're shortly before the next event. Just like a day ago, Thorwaldsen says he thinks something's going to happen in the next 48 hours. So that will be maybe in the next 20 hours or so. But certainly it won't take long, because we have some experience since November 10th. Once a month there was an event like an intrusion or an eruption, and that's how this magma chamber has always behaved. The mysterious thing will now be, will the current eruption just get stronger, or will there be something new, or will it be really strong now that this is full again? So we will see. But, you know, it has slowed down, but it is still increasing. It has not completely stopped. What we can say about the flow in that one crater there at the eruption site. So they have looked at it in the last 2 weeks. That's the time frame that we're looking at. So the average flow of lava from that crater in the last 2 weeks is now about a third of the average flow that it did have in the first half of April. So only a third. That would explain where the other 2/3 are going, into the magma chamber. And the MET Office is saying that the measurements and model calculations that they have done indicate that there is considerable uncertainty about the future of this event, or what's going to happen overall right now with the next event. But also overall in this area, will this continue for years, decades, centuries? That's definitely possible. And it doesn't look like that this system there is slowing down in any way. But the measurements and all the data that they have so far, they indicate that we will see news very, very soon, and that the power of the current eruptions could increase. And that could happen from 1 second to the next. There will be no warning, because the pipe where the magma flows right now, that tunnel that the magma has formed underneath, is still open because we still have an eruption. So there won't be a big earthquake swarm, basically nothing. That's why they're telling tourists, please keep out, stay out of that area. Don't walk around there, because something is imminent. Something could happen. And we know that this lava is flowing very, very quickly because it's quite liquid. So it is dangerous to be in that area. So if you're in Iceland, if you're planning to go to Iceland, just stay away from that area. They have updated the risk assessment, especially for the town of Grindavik, for that zone. Overall, they're saying the risk of an eruption in that area has decreased, because they think we will see the new eruption in the same area. But I don't know. Yes, it is more likely, but I wouldn't rule it out that it can be more south, because it has done that in the past. That's why 3 homes burned down in Grindavik. So they have increased the hazard level in Grindavik because of the risk of lava flow. That's why it has an increased level, not because they think something's going to erupt in Grindavik. There is a current lava flow towards Grindavik already. So the eruption that is going right now, it's continuing, and the lava that's coming from that is flowing south towards Grindavik. But it just started to build layer on top of each other, instead of flowing so fast. It did flow very, very fast in the first few days. That's why you see that lava carpet, I call it carpet, spread out here. And it did reach the defense walls. The defense walls worked quite well. It was flowing along the defense walls, but then it started building layers on top of each other, and that was a problem. And then it looked all black and it looked all okay. But then they noticed, oh wow, wait a minute, like on the northeastern part of the defense walls, this thing is like building up, and it's slowly crawling like higher and higher, as high as the defense walls were. And just a few days ago, it has breached the defense walls in an area. So it has run over the defense walls, like not super critical because it's moving very slow. It's not super liquid there. There's an underground tunnel, so to speak, of lava that flows from the eruption underneath the solidified black rocks, and that's why you don't see it, but it lifts it up, right? So that's why it was crawling over that defense wall. So the whole lava carpet is still thickening. Overall, the area of the lava bed that has formed in this eruption spans an area of 6.16 square kilometers, and the volume and the thickness of this lava bed continues to increase, and they're saying the volume is now 34 million plus minus roughly 2 million cubic meters of magma that has flown out of that eruption right now. So 34 million cubic meters, and the average thickness of that lava bed is 5.5 meters. But don't be confused by the 5.5 meters, because that's roughly 15 feet or something like this. Because if you look at the new map that they have released, you see everything that's yellow doesn't matter, like yellow, orange, reddish. That's the new lava carpet that has spread out. Everything that's purple, that's the old stuff in the previous eruptions. And so you see, it's also, they made kind of like a time frame here, what happened between April 15th and April 25th. And you can see it is getting higher. And if you look, like the darkest spot, that's of course where the crater is that's erupting right now. So we're higher than 32 meters. So over 100 feet in height, that's where the crater is, and the direct proximity of that crater where the most lava spills on top of each other. And then of course you see it's getting more orange towards the defense walls as well. And then there on the west, there are darker spots. That's where their gravel pit was, where they were taking out material to build the defense walls. Of course, that was a low spot that has been filled up by the lava. That's why it's higher there. So basically, Anything that's in lighter yellow, that is 4 to 8 meters in height. And remember, the defense walls originally, they were about 8 meters high, so they brought them up to like 12 to 16 meters. But if you look, the lighter orange there on that scale, 12 to 16 meters, it's definitely in a lot of areas or also has reached that height. And since the lava crossed the defense wall definitely needs to be made like higher, because if there's a new eruption that has more force in the pipe, then it could approach Grindavik again quite fast, and if it's then starting to build up again, they might have a problem. So you see, I think, in my opinion, if you look at the darkest still orange, that's 16 to 20 meters. So 20 meters, that's about 60 feet, if I'm right. So interesting stuff. So that's why we're all eager to wait what's going to happen next, and it's a little bit of a mystery, right? So they're saying what they have observed the last few days is basically the land rise is still happening at Swartsengi, but there's indications that it has slowed down in the last few days. But, and here comes the but, guys, at the same time, while the land rise has slowed down, the eruption seems to have caught up. They're calling it eruptive turbulence, has shown a slight increase, and microseismic activity has temporarily increased in the Sutnuka crater series, although there are indications that the land rise is slowing down. So it's all a little bit of a mystery. So is there already magma coming from the magma chamber that's adding to the current one? Is it rumbling because of this? It would be the most likely scenario, in my opinion, but they don't really say that, because they're saying that their model calculations showed that the land underneath Swartsengi is still rising, just slower. So for them, it is that the fact that the land rise is slowing down, but at the same time magma is still flowing into it, that is their indication. That's why they're saying the pressure is building up, and that's why they're saying the next event is imminent. But they keep mentioning there is considerable uncertainty about the future developments of that volcanic system. So they have their scenarios. If the magma accumulation in the magma chamber continues, it is more likely that the power of the Sutnuk crater series eruption that we have already will increase significantly, rather than that it would subside. And based on their latest measurements, however, they say it is difficult to say which of the scenarios is more likely, because there's other scenarios as well. And I want to tell you these scenarios. The scenarios are that it's not coming through the one crater that is erupting, that we will see new fissures that will open in the area between Stora Skogfell and more south towards Grindavik, Hagafell, or maybe even south of Hagafell, like we did have already in January. That's when the 3 homes burned down. So an existing fissure could expanding, or a new fissure could build due to a sudden increase in lava flow. So it could be then comparable to the initial phase of the last eruption that we have seen in that area, and all that. That's what they're saying. It could happen with very little or absolutely no notice, because the tunnel system for the magma to flow in there is already there. The highway is paved. There is no gravel road. It's a highway. So there won't be an earthquake swarm when the magma needs to grind through there or form these new tunnels. If you build a new tunnel, you need explosives, right? So magma doesn't have to do it. But it's also possible that magma flow from that magma chamber underneath the Blue Lagoon and Swartsengi could flow to that active crater series, would just gradually increase, and not like all of a sudden, until there is a balance between the inflow of magma from the deeper magma reservoir and the magma chamber. So, and then to the outflow from the surface. So that it's basically, I would call it, flowing through from the deeper magma reservoir right into the eruption site. That could happen as well. And that did happen a few weeks ago. They said it's balanced now. That's when the magma chamber wasn't filling up so visibly, right? And then it was a mystery, why is it now filling up again, right? And look at that updated graph here, the red line below with the circle indicates we don't know, we don't have an event yet, neither an intrusion when the magma doesn't reach the surface or an eruption when the magma comes out as lava. So we're above 10 million cubic meters. And the other graphs in the past indicate the amount in the magma chamber when an event was triggered. Also, we still have the risk of toxic gas pollution. So the forecast on Tuesday was, for example, that it was moving to the south and that there could be gas pollution in or near Grindavik, right? Wednesday, it was west. It was turning west, where Blue Lagoon power plant west of Grindavik. And then it turns around again and flows to the east and to the north. So it's very unpredictable. If you're sailing, you know what winds do, right? And this area is basically right on the coast where winds can change. As I just mentioned, here is the updated hazard map. You can see the thing that has changed, that is Grindavik. It goes from orange to red. So red is high. And what they're saying, their estimation is when they have a new eruption or an increased existing eruption, that the risk is increased and that it's more likely than before that lava now can flow quickly to the south. And that's when the defense walls come in place again. Will they hold? Will the lava flow over it? Will the lava flow under it? So Grindavik is not out of the woods when it comes to the lava flow. It's under threat. But again, anywhere along that dike that formed on November 10th, that goes from the sea through Grindavik and then north, it could erupt. We could see a fissure open. So I wouldn't be 100% sure that nothing can happen in Grindavik. So all these hazard areas, also the orange areas, it's what the civil defense and the police of Sudan says. Ideally, we don't want anyone in these areas because these are hazard areas, right? Of course, now everyone's waiting. And one of my viewers had a great new name, the Lagoonies, the Lagoonies. Yeah, the Lagoonies, they're still there, right? Probably waiting for the last minute again. We will have to see. And in light of this, so what's going on with the businesses in Zone 4, the businesses in Grindavik? We know it's been a little bit of a gong show to buy out the residents, to buy out the homes. You know, it's been like, this happened in November 10th, right? So it's over half a year, or half a year that they still haven't received any payment from the natural disaster insurance. They're paying into this insurance, right? Yes, it is a unique situation, but even the end of last year, they formed a company that should take care of this and buy them out. But then it was so bureaucratic. The residents protested and they're still not being bought out. It's still like so slow, although we're already only talking about like 700 applications, but they wanted to program a new system to do that online. Why is that necessary? The residents are angry too. They're saying, why are we the guinea pigs to test out this new system? Just get it on paper, stamp, here you go, right? And I agree with this. I mean, if you want to make a system for the future, yes, but you know, get them help as quickly as possible. So the businesses, I have to say, they're not being bought out. They're not being bought out. The commercial properties in Grindavik will not be bought out. Last week, all these business owners, like small and medium-sized business owners, did draw a little bit of attention to their poor situation. They have made an appeal to the ministers and the members of parliament last week. There was a request for the public sector to buy up the commercial buildings, especially those buildings for those it was clear that they would not be used in the near future. So they didn't receive really clear answers or satisfying answers from the government. So the mayor of Grindavik, Fanna Johansson, he talked about these issues and other issues that are happening in the town right now. And he says there have been many meetings with the business owners and the residents, the whole group, in the recent days. And he says a meeting has been called with business owners from Grindavik again, and he says the meeting was well attended and various useful information was presented. Yeah, and basically what he says that they tried to get ahead of this somehow, because he says there have been quite a few inquiries about the purchase of commercial real estate, in a similar way to what has been done with the residential real estate. He says there have been quite confusing answers, not a clear path in these answers from the central government. Basically the message that they're now getting is that the commercial buildings in the town will not be bought out. So basically it will not happen in this disaster the same as it did not happen in any other disaster in the past. So it's all a little bit in limbo, because if have commercial buildings that have been damaged by an earthquake or lava flow, that would be usually have to be covered by the natural disaster insurance. So of course, what was his statement to the question, what should companies do? Should they just go bankrupt? So his answer is that, yeah, the situations for businesses, it's different. Some of them can start their operations somewhere else and at the same time maintain their business ties to Grindavik, but then there are other companies that can't be anywhere else but in Grindavik. I guess it's the ones that are connected with the fish processing, with the harbor. So he says that naturally the hope is that when the people of Grindavik can return, it will be possible to resume activities in the premises that have been abandoned. He says, of course, maintenance has to be carried out on these premises that are left behind right now. So it's a twisted situation from every angle, no matter how you look at it. But when the Grindavik people can return, the residents are being bought out, they're leaving. Is he talking about the business owners? It's difficult because running a business when the people don't live in that area, it's difficult as well. And they're still talking about, if they're buying out the residents of Grindavik, do they have the right of first basically chance to buy their homes back, or will they be rented out to them by the government then, who's taking care of this? So what's going to happen? It's all a big insecurity. And then, of course, he makes a statement about the process of the buyout of the homes, that this is going so slow and that this is so frustrating. And I feel that he's defending the company a little bit, Thorkatla, that has been founded to do that. Basically, he says, maybe the real estate company may have given a few unrealistic ideas about how quickly the buyout would go. The project turned out to be more complicated than that. He doesn't say why, but he says that he heard that they have brought in someone new to get that case going. So let's hope for that. I think it's not only like government money, the banks and the pension funds need to be brought in to be on the same page with the mortgages. Then the natural disaster insurance has to be turned around in some way, because they usually only pay for like damage repairs, not for buyouts, only in a few specific cases. So all these entities need to be on one table, and we know how it is with insurances. Probably the natural disaster insurance has reinsurers that maybe are refusing to pay. Who knows? That's why it's bureaucratic and it's going slow. What is interesting, when the mayor is asked about the future of Grindavik and what's going to happen in the summer in Grindavik, will tourists be allowed to look at the town? And he says it's a twisted situation, because in the town, there can be many hidden dangers, especially in open areas, because there's sudden crack collapse, sudden sinkholes. And he says they have scanned the soil of the entire street system. So that is interesting. Did they really do that thoroughly? I hope so. The premises basically have become showcases of the disaster. He says they have various ideas in the works, including like organized trips into the town where people could enjoy refreshments from operators, businesses in the town. They get to go to certain places with a guide and then be driven back out of town. So do I get that right? And I knew it, guys. I knew it. They will turn Grindavik into a tourist attraction. Who would have thought, right? And then they can take a relaxing spa day at the Blue Lagoon where the magma chamber is right underneath them. You know, he says if there's a pattern visible that there is a more quiet time between these volcanic events, these eruptions, where something like this could be possible, then they would maybe do it. But he says, of course, now the police chief of Sudurns gets the blame again. He says it's the decision of the police chief in Sudurns to decide about evacuations and access to the town, depending on the circumstances. So it's neither the municipal authorities nor the residents who have the final say in that matter. So if everything goes well, they're making money with the tourists. If something goes wrong, it's the police chief's fault. The Blue Lagoon basically says that as well, right? We're relying on the information of the police chief and the civil defense. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know what I think about this. Do you really have to bring in tourists into this area? I mean, I'm speechless again, and I really, really hate it. I absolutely hate it, and I really think tourists are like figures in a board game. Oh, let's bring in the cash. Where could we place them? And the tourists are so stupid. You know, they're sensationalists. Of course, they want to see the cracks. They want to see the tilted homes. They want to see the lava, right? So I'm sure a lot of people will definitely go. So guys, I'll keep you updated about this. Of course, you will know it firsthand from me if I find something new, if they have a new tourist attraction. We know they're already thinking about playing golf in between the cracks in Grindavik, right? Then maybe go to a restaurant in Grindavik and then spend the night at the Blue Lagoon so that you'll have a nice nighttime emergency evacuation again, right? I mean, I'm laughing about this, but I find this kind of tragic, especially in light that many tourists still don't know what's going on there. And maybe you have seen my video with the interview about some tourists that were going to the Blue Lagoon. They were like, what? There's a magma chamber underneath? No. Oh, there's an eruption? Is that still going? Oh, I guess that we're done if it erupts right underneath us, right? So the reporter was just like, well, let's hope for good luck, right? Let's hope that this will not happen. So the Gong Show, the soap opera with the Lagoonies will continue, and it seems they're expanding their areas there in this area. So stay tuned. I'm out of here. I see you soon, guys. Bye-bye.